a lot of the same problems that Tennessee had against Appalachian State rear its ugly head again against Virginia Tech. Now they finally got him moving, put some points on the board, but we'll discuss that a little bit later on. But before we do that, let's talk about where you can find us online. I recommend Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That's Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Give us a search in the search bar. Also, check us out on our website, hotnewstalkradio.com or noogaradio.com. Again, that's hotnewstalkradio.com and noogaradio.com. And I recommend the TuneIn Radio app. It's absolutely free for your mobile device. Whatever app store you use, that's Hot News Talk Radio. Search it in the TuneIn Radio app. Give us a favorite. Press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So before we jump into all the Tennessee talk, because there's a ton of it, and there's some Georgia talk too, I want to talk about the games on Sunday, the NFL games, because first off, there were some close games, but even before the games, a lot of the controversy being stirred up by whether or not players were going to take a knee. There was something that brewing up there in Seattle where it seemed like Seattle was going to have a controversial thing going on, and then when the game started, they linked a bunch of arms, and that was fine for them. I think the protests are fine. Now, what Seattle did isn't really anything. They just linked arms, right? Nobody took a knee. In Miami, a couple of Dolphins players took a knee. The 49ers play tonight against the Los Angeles Rams, the newly minted Los Angeles Rams. And I think that Colin Kaepernick is probably going to take a knee, and he may be joined by a teammate or two. Now, whether or not you feel like that was disrespectful, I'll leave that up to you. I don't think it was disrespectful because I've said it multiple times, but I don't mind saying it again. Taking a knee during the national anthem is not disrespecting the nation of America, which you feel like can be better. Our national anthem, our flag, they all represent things, and currently our nation, especially if you are an African American, you are a Black American, if you live here, you know that everything's just not okay. It's not just all hunky-dory, and you've got to do something about it, right? And if you're going to protest by nature steps on toes. Protest by nature rattles the cage. If you're taking a knee during the national anthem and people are getting mad at you, I mean, that's kind of what you want. I mean, I don't know any other way that people are supposed to protest. Protest peacefully. Nobody's getting hurt. Protest respectfully. It's not like anyone's going out there and burning the flag, because I agree that would be excessive. That would be going too far. Protesting peacefully. Nobody's getting hurt to get their message across. Because protest does not concern itself with the mechanism of how problems and issues get solved. Protest is merely something to draw attention to the existing issues that may possibly be ignored. And they are being ignored. And the people who are taking a knee during these games are doing more to draw attention to these issues than anything else that they could possibly be doing. What else would you have them be doing? Now, a few players did raise their fists instead of taking the knee. That is also something that you can do. Look, I see all the different avenues here. I talked to Confederate Mike here, who is our program director at this station. And look, he doesn't want any Dolphins games and he doesn't want any 49ers games on because they took the knee during the national anthem. And he feels that strongly about how offensive that is. And look, I respect it. And first off, I'm pretty grateful to be working at a station where I can basically point at management and go, hey, look, guys, I just disagree with you. The issue becomes when we become so sensitive about what somebody is saying that we refuse to hear what it is that they have to say, that the object of this protest is not pure disrespect of the flag or disrespect of the anthem or disrespect of the nation. And because a lot of these protests did fall on 9/11, the 15th anniversary of that tragic day, that it seemed almost even disrespectful to the 9/11 victims. But here's the thing. If they didn't take a knee yesterday and waited till next week, you would have still been mad at them if that's something that you find to be disrespectful. And a part of me wonders if we're not making too big a deal of this just based on the number of veterans that have come out and said they're not offended, that they don't think that these athletes are out here not being respectful of the situation that they're in, that others who get paid less sacrifice so much more so that they can get a chance to play football and make a ton. I don't think the players are unaware of that. So, I mean, that's just my opinion on the issue. I really do respect where it is the players are coming from on this, because if you are a Black American, you feel like you have to do something. Now, where I take issue with a lot of guys taking that knee is a lot of guys are going to take that knee and not do anything else after. That's the problem to me. You take a knee, what you need to be doing afterwards is going out there into your community, is going out there and helping everybody else. Make your message known that this place is not equal, but not just through your protest, not through just rattling the cage, but going out there and going into the inner city, going into these urban areas where you feel like people are oppressed, and help lift them up with your actions, not just through your protest. That's where I have a problem with it. Anyway, you're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Let's roll into the Tennessee talk, because I want to talk about both of the Tennessees, the Titans and the Volunteers. The University of Tennessee and the Tennessee Titans, to me, have the same problem. The Titans lost to the Minnesota Vikings at home, a game that they should have won. The Vols won a game in a neutral location. They did a lot of right things, but they didn't do it quickly. I saw the Titans come out. They had a nice start, right? But I don't think that they really took advantage of that game. They had an opportunity on some scoring drives to really put the Vikings away, including the one with the interception that Mariota threw. You had a hot start going, and you threw it away. Both of these teams suffer from the problem that they don't get down to business quickly enough. Right? The Vols did not get down to business. They started the game with a bunch of 3-and-outs. They did not get down to business quickly enough, and that is a huge problem. Right? You can get away with it against Appalachian State, and to be clear, you just barely got away with it. You can get away with it against Virginia Tech. You might even get away with it next week against Ohio, but you're not going to get away with it against Florida. I'd love to see Tennessee against Ohio next week really straighten and iron some of these issues out, because I think that the Vols have enough talent. The problem is that they don't have enough talent in one place where you would really, really love to have talent, and that's the offensive line, or at least strength and size or something comparable to that. Because where they are right now, as the Vols are right now, their offensive line stinks. It stinks. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it any other way. It's not good. That pass protection. And people are talking about, can Josh Dobbs throw the ball down the field? And I've been, again, one of those people. I see his arm. I'm not impressed with it, right? But even Josh Dobbs would be able to throw the ball down the field if he had a few more seconds to throw. I don't even know if we've accurately assessed how well he can throw the ball down the field. Dude is always running for his life. And when you are watching a team send a 3-man pass rush, three, they drop everybody else in the coverage, and that pass rush is getting to the quarterback, you've got a problem with the line, which is where you win and lose football games. It's the old cliche about the game being won and lost in the trenches, but it's still true. Now, you've got some quarterbacks in life who can overcome that kind of stuff. And you see it at the NFL level. I think it's easier to see, where you've got guys that are like Big Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, huge guys that are just really hard to tackle. And so even though they never have good O-lines, they're gigantic mammoths, and they're able to stand in the pocket and take the shots and still deliver strong passes. You've got guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers who've got quick releases. I mean, some of the fastest release times ever clocked throwing a football have been those two guys. And so while they don't play behind stellar offensive lines either, they get rid of the ball so incredibly quickly that they can wait until the last second. Josh Dobbs does not have an elite release time. He's not 6'6", 260 pounds. So when the pass rush comes for him, he is basically, outside of his extra mobility, like a normal quarterback. He just needs that time, and he's not getting it at all. And I don't know what pass routes you can run for the young man that would help him at this point if that offensive line doesn't straighten up and fly right. Now, you look at a team in Virginia Tech that imploded, absolutely beat themselves on the football field. I mean, 5 fumbles, you're never going to win a football game doing that. I mean, you can, but the other team's got to fumble like 4 times. You have to be playing against a team that is hell-bent on giving you the ball back. But make no bones about it. This is a Tennessee team that I'm worried about them this season. I don't know if they can hang with some of the tougher opponents that they're going to face. I still don't know. There's nothing that has been shown to this point in the season that would show me that Tennessee can hang with Alabama. That shows me that Tennessee can hang with Texas A&M. Tennessee might be able to hang with Georgia. I don't know. It depends on which Georgia team you see, if you can contain Nick Chubb at all. All of those things. You're playing against a freshman quarterback. You've got a lot of things going for you. You might be able to hang with Georgia. And Florida's not a complete team either. Del Rio's good, but they're just not a complete team all the way just yet. But that being said, I'm especially worried about the A&M and Alabama game. Now, you've got Florida coming up after Ohio. But that's going to be a rough game too. They're like, this is where the more elite talent is showing up. Virginia Tech's young. Remember that old excuse that Vols fans we used to run out there? I mean, the Vols are young. Virginia Tech's young. Like, the kind of implosion that Virginia Tech displayed is the kind of implosion you would expect a young team with a young coaching staff to have. I mean, that's not extraordinary what happened there. And the Vols took advantage of it, and you can't blame them for taking advantage of the other team's mistakes. But where it comes to making this difficult to analyze is when you look at a team like Florida. Florida's not going to gift you 5 turnovers. They're not just going to give you 5. Okay, they're not going to spot you a bunch of possessions. So now what? And I'm not even overlooking Ohio, by the way. I don't know nearly as much about Ohio. I have not done the research on them yet. But Ohio can beat you too. Right? Like, this is a school that makes bowl games. It's not like they don't ever see bowl games. They're not you're not playing the Little Sisters of the Poor. You're not playing the University of Incarnate Word. So I worry about the Vols on that regard, that they don't start quickly enough. And I worry about the Titans in the NFL for the same reason. They don't start the game quickly enough with enough punch. And part of it is that they are this kind of dynamic running team. You've got Derrick Henry, you've got DeMarco Murray. The 2 of those guys did look really, really good. And Marcus Mariota passed the ball to them very well and also used his legs. But Marcus Mariota made some back-breaking turnovers there in the game. He made some back-breaking decisions. And the thing is, usually back-breaking decisions show up late in the game. No. Marcus Mariota got that up in the middle of the game. He got the back-breakers popping early. That interception killed a drive that looked like it was headed for pay dirt. They were picking up first downs effortlessly on that drive, and then Mariota tried to escape a sack, and with a defender holding onto his waist, tried to throw the ball, and that's always a dangerous thing to do. He threw a pass that was errant, and interception. Returned for a touchdown, pick 6. And then later, on a read option handoff, I believe it was to DeMarco Murray. You got to be careful with that read option stuff. Your running backs and your quarterbacks have to be on the same page with the read option stuff. Because, you saw it on Thursday Night Football. When they were up against the Broncos, the Panthers, Cam had one play where he held the ball into the running back's chest until the last second and then pulled it back. If you guys aren't on the same page with that, you both let go of the football, it's a fumble. And we saw that against Minnesota, and Minnesota capitalized on that, scored a touchdown off of that as well. And that was kind of all she wrote. So the difference between the Titans and the Vols in their 2 games, despite the fact that both teams started off way too slow, the difference in those 2 games was that the Vols got gift wrapped a bunch of turnovers, and the Titans did the gift wrapping. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Quick extra football observation from the LSU game against Jacksonville State. Brandon Harris started the game slow, and Les Miles gave him the hook. Les Miles pulled him up out the game, and some people, I am not one of those some people, believe that it's about time that happened. And Danny Etling came into the game where he threw for 100 yards, completed over 50% of his passes, and he threw a touchdown, and he looked pretty good. And I'm pretty sure he's the guy now for the rest of the season. He looked better than Brandon Harris did. And I think, first off, it's about time Les Miles made some kind of change. Les Miles is like the most adverse to change human being that there ever was. He does not seem to like it. The man is adverse to change in every way. And quite frankly, that is why he almost got fired. And if LSU does not compete for a championship this year, why he will be fired. And I don't call for coaches to be fired, but I'm saying it's going to happen. That is why he will be fired. Because he doesn't like to change. His system is a caveman system. Like anybody could do it. And he doesn't change it. He doesn't change it ever. And he has a quarterback that hasn't fit in that system this entire time, and he hasn't changed it. I mean, you look at Brandon Harris, and I don't care what anybody says. Brandon Harris has got all the measurables of a starting quarterback. Why can't he succeed? You know what I think? Bad system. I think more creative system would allow Brandon Harris to do more. I think Les Miles' system, quite frankly, suits a more traditional pocket passer better. A traditional pocket passer with a little bit of mobility. Brandon Harris isn't that. And the system doesn't suit him very well. And it's weird that we kept up with this charade, essentially, all this long. And so Danny Etling's the quarterback, and things looked a whole lot better and a whole lot smooth underneath him. Now, he didn't look like a world beater exactly. So we'll see if that means anything moving forward for the Tigers, because, hey, they need something to happen. This is a team that has championship level expectations. You look at every position on the field, they have it. There's no excuses for them. And Les Miles, I don't care what clout he's got with the fans, what he's got, what dirt he's got on the board. I don't know what he did to save himself last time, but if Les Miles does not have this team at a competitive level for a championship, well, we're going to be saying goodbye to Les Miles in the SEC. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Is Nick Saban really, really, truly a bad guy? Next.
Wars come and go, but my soldiers stay eternal.
Now you can listen to Hot News Talk Radio anywhere, streaming live at Noogaradio.com. That's Noogaradio.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
With every election, the government always gets in. You're right to be angry. We have no free market. Red tape everywhere. Taxes crushing. There's no level playing field. Tomorrow may be a day of reckoning. But there is something you can do. It's personal safety, personal security, shooter supply and indoor range. Find the handgun or long gun suitable to you. Take a concealed carry permit class. Use Shooter's roomy indoor private shooting range. Get expert personal advice. Shooter Supply fights boldly against big boxes. It helps people understand firearms. A free republic has become a despotism. Let them choke on their swag. For us, we invest in personal safety. In the Second Amendment, fight back, shop local. The country is in a desperate situation, but you don't have to be. Shooter Supply, love your neighbor, buy local. 875-4868, 875-4868, shooters-range.com. Shop shooters-range.com. Think about the future. What about your kids?
Hi, this is Mike at Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell, featuring over 6,000 square feet of unique and everyday wholesale items discounted at, get this, 50 to 75% off of retail, from new and pre-owned tools to chainsaws and auto accessories. Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Expect fair skies with a few passing clouds out there through the nighttime. Not as mild, lows into the upper 60s. For Tuesday, a hot day, highs of around 90. Nice late afternoon shower storm may pop up with mainly dry and hot weather through the midweek, highs of around 90. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original gold and fried delicious chicken finger with their special sauce. Open daily, locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, Ringgold, and now 5203 Brainerd Road. That's Guthrie's. And I'm Sporting 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. While the Ooltewah rape case has almost come to its criminal conclusion, a civil lawsuit has just begun. A 23-page federal lawsuit was filed last Friday with the Hamilton County Schools in connection with the rape of an Ooltewah High freshman and a society of what they're calling unchecked hazing and sexual harassment that went on at Ooltewah High, according to the allegations. The suit was filed on behalf of a 15-year-old victim who was brutally raped by his teammates, according to the allegations. A mysterious man marched into the homes of two people in East Ridge on Friday, assaulting two of them with his fists and then running away. Both victims say they couldn't get a clear view of him. He just walked into their houses, hit them, and ran away. One of the victims was a 70-year-old woman. The serial pugilist is still believed to be on the run. And the Chattanooga Fire Department and the Chattanooga Area Food Bank are teaming up for the 10th annual food drive. You can drop off non-perishable items at any of the Chattanooga Fire Department's 19 fire stations. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So yesterday, full day of football. I watched as much as I possibly could. I jumped around for a few games. Listen, Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. We're the home of the NFL in Chattanooga. 3 football games yesterday. We had 3. Ran the games from 1 to, I believe, 11:15 when Sunday Night Football ended. Got them all. So we got Sunday Night Football here. And Monday Night Football, if I'm not terribly mistaken. So we've got all of those things. And, of course, if you are a political junkie, which if you're listening to this station, you really should be, because that's pretty much all we talk about here. It's politics and sports. What else do you need? If you are, then you will enjoy Alex Jones coming up after this show. If you're familiar with Alex Jones' InfoWars, he's coming up. He's from 7 to 10 after Clutch with Keon Rose. So just stick around for that. Sunday Night Football, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo make his debut, his Patriots debut, in place of the suspended Tom Brady against the Arizona Cardinals. And it was a good game. It was one of the games decided by a mere few points in the NFL, the entire league, close games. This is why we like the NFL. In fact, I will go off on a side tangent right now. Here's one of the cool things about the NFL. All of the games are close. Like, we talk about which teams are great and which teams are bad, but very rarely do you have in the NFL just a week where everybody is getting blown out and beat down. Usually games are pretty close. And there were 3 games yesterday decided by 1 point. Almost every other game was decided by a single digit. The games are close to the point where even if you had a team this week that lost, there really isn't that much to panic about. Now, I mean, at some point, you're going to separate. The cream's going to rise to the top. But initially, all of these teams are very close. And what I liked about last night's game was that it was just very competitive going down the stretch. They were trading points. The Cardinals seemed to move the ball, and whenever they could get a drive going, scored a touchdown, basically. Now, they started off slow. And that seems to be the theme of the weekend. If you don't get started quickly, you put yourself in a position to lose. Jimmy Garoppolo and the Patriots came out, struck first immediately. Now, the Cardinals have a problem. There's a secondary problem that they basically ran out a guy that they converted from running back to corner out there, and he got roasted alive on the very first drive, and it looked bad. It looked real bad. Like, I don't know what else you do if you're Arizona. Like, how do you solve that particular problem? Is there not anybody you could pick up off of waivers or something that would be better than converting a running back to corner or running a rookie out there? Like, it was bad. Garoppolo found that dude and continued to roast him. And he also found Danny Amendola often. And I thought that Garoppolo would struggle. I thought he would struggle because he didn't have Gronk. And whenever you've got a young tight end, the one thing you want to have that guy is a young quarterback is get that guy a tight end. Get that guy a nice security blanket that he can throw the ball to when nobody else is open. Garoppolo didn't have it. Garoppolo didn't need it. Jimmy Garoppolo played fine. Now people are talking about, oh, look at how the Patriots run their system. Maybe they don't need Brady. Stop. Jimmy Garoppolo played well. He ain't no Brady. He's not Brady. He might be better looking than Brady. That was surprising to see. I hadn't taken any time to see what it was that Jimmy Garoppolo looked like up until this moment. And Jimmy Garoppolo might be better looking than Tom Brady, but he ain't no Brady. Okay. He played fine. Okay, but there's nothing that Jimmy Garoppolo could do from last night's game or in the next 3 weeks to take Tom Brady's job. He's good. He's not great. Now, he's got a high ceiling. One day the Brady era is going to end. Tom Brady, almost 39 years old. It's going to come to a close one day, but we're not there yet. We have not reached the end, and Tom Brady's got some more football left in him. But when and if that happens, Jimmy Garoppolo will be right there to be the successor to the throne, I suppose. But I hope the Patriots don't botch that the way that the Broncos botched the whole Brock Osweiler situation, because I feel like they don't have a Trevor Siemian on that roster. Moving on through the NFL, though, I really was impressed with Dak Prescott. Mississippi State fans, I know you guys are probably waiting for that. But Dak Prescott, I think he got a lot of extra criticism. And the reason why he got that extra criticism is because the Cowboys lost. The Cowboys played the Giants for their opener, and Dak Prescott did a lot of good things. He moved the ball up and down the field. But the only things, and I feel like I'm nitpicking because I thought he had a great performance overall. The only things that I wonder about Dak Prescott is, one, couldn't get into the end zone. Like, the first 3 drives that he had down the field were all scoring drives. Field goals. 3. I mean, you couldn't lose the Giants that way. You can't beat the Giants with just field goals. In fact, there are very few teams in the NFL that you could beat with just field goals. Okay, this isn't going to be Florida State Clemson where you have a kicker that scores 21 points. You cannot beat somebody with just field goals. You've got to put some touchdowns on the board. Cowboys didn't do that. Part of that is Prescott, like that aggressiveness in the red zone. The whole field cramps up. It's hard to see where to put the ball, and he kind of clammed up a little bit. That's one. Two, and we saw this in the preseason a little bit, but it's exaggerated now that the talent of corner that you're going against and the complexity of the defense that you're going against is starting to show up. Dak Prescott does not know how to use Des Bryant as his wide receiver. This has become painfully obvious because he's throwing a lot of passes to Cole Beasley. And if you're throwing a lot of passes to Cole Beasley, it means you're throwing a lot of underneath stuff that you are not testing downfield. You are not pushing the ball downfield. You are going underneath. In order to properly use Des Bryant, you need to throw the ball down the field. That is a big, fast monster. All right, I hesitate to classify Des Bryant as mere mortal. That is a monster. And if you've got a monster, you got to throw it up there and let him go get it. And Des Bryant was kind of frustrated on the day because he didn't get really a whole lot of targets. And when he did, he couldn't get into a rhythm. He was getting broken up. And look, I could see how you could be Des Bryant and be frustrated by the fact that Dak Prescott ain't no Tony Romo, because Dak Prescott did not seem wholly interested in making a ton of mistakes. And that was one of the things that we liked about Dak Prescott coming out from college, was that Dak Prescott's not a guy that's going to make a ton of mistakes. He's not going to throw a ton of picks. That was his senior year at Mississippi State. Dak Prescott had a high touchdown to interception ratio, did not throw a lot of interceptions, didn't make the big mistake that cost you the game. So there's no reason to expect that to change as he's a Dallas Cowboy. He's going to be serviceable. Dak Prescott's got a big enough ceiling. I think he's going to be the Cowboys quarterback of the future going down the road. I really think he can be that good. He's going to be the guy that's there after Romo for like 9-10 years. But right now, he's in that mode where he's not testing downfield. And it stinks right now if you're the Cowboys, because you need him to use Des Bryant effectively, as that is your offense now. You can run the ball some. And I mean, my gosh, Alfred Morris looked impossible to tackle at times, yesterday. But you need him to throw the ball down the field. You do. He's just got to. And speaking of the Cowboys and the Giants, what about Des Bryant and Odell Beckham Jr. hanging out before the game? They were hanging out before the game. They were playing catch. They were training. And look, a lot of the older NFL players, the guys that played in the era of actual hatred, is what I will call it, where you played against people and you really hated them, right? Like now we have a lot of division rivalries, but those division rivalries are mostly maintained by the fans. I'm a Redskins fan. I hate the Cowboys, and I have Cowboy fan friends who make life very difficult for me and very annoying for me. But that's mostly us fans going back and forth that really make those rivalries stay alive. The players don't really hate each other like they used to, and you could see that yesterday, because the Giants and the Cowboys are, over the last decade, pretty much arch rivals, and you couldn't tell if you watched Dez and Odell kicking it together. But my thing is, I don't have a problem with it. Is there anything wrong with being friends with somebody on the other team? You've never played sports with people that were your friends? Like, the world is more connected now than it ever was. If you're an athlete and you want to make friends, wouldn't you make friends with people who understand what it is that you go through? Maybe people who you can hang out with that aren't interested in your money and aren't interested in your fame. If you're Odell Beckham, what does Des Bryant want with your money? He's out here getting paid too. I'm okay with guys being friends. Like, don't be all chummy during the game, but before and after the game, hang out. I like that the older guys saw that and thought, no, there has to be actual hatred here. You have to actually hate that guy. Why? Des Bryant and Odell Beckham don't play each other. They're a couple of wide receivers. They're not on the field at the same time. Are they going to line Des up across from Odell Beckham at wide receiver? Like, the two of them playing catch before the game does nothing to be a detriment to the other. Not one thing. I think you're being a little excessive. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to click on the radio plugin on the Facebook page to listen to live radio straight from Facebook. Nobody else is doing that so far as I know. Also, make sure to check us out on our website, hotnewstalkradio.com and noogaradio.com. And, of course, in the TuneIn Radio app. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite. Press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. Georgia, you guys okay? You guys good down there in Georgia? Because the dogs give you a lot to worry about right now. The dogs give you just a little bit to worry right now, because here's the thing. Georgia fans are different from Tennessee fans. Tennessee fans have been beaten down for so long that they understand that they are trying to earn respect right now. They are trying to get people's respect right now. They're not interested in talking trash, in looking like the greatest thing on earth. Maybe that time will come back for Tennessee, but that time's not here yet. Okay, you struggled against Appalachian State, and you won handily against Virginia Tech. I get it, you won handily, but you haven't proven that you can beat the cream of the crop, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out in a few weeks whether or not that's true, and if some of these issues that Tennessee has can be straightened out. But I don't think Tennessee fans were under any delusion that their team is the greatest team ever. I thought that that Tennessee could win the East and possibly win the SEC title game. I thought that was possible. I am not one that backtracks off of my picks that easily. So unless Tennessee loses in a way that is truly horrific, then I'm sticking with it. I really think that this team, if you just look at them talent-wise on paper, and I understand games aren't played on paper, but if you look at them talent-wise, they're good enough to go the distance. Georgia fans, though, Georgia fans have been basically winning 10 games a year, every year for the last 12 years. Georgia fans have been winning 10 games a year. You are very used to this fact. So when you fire the coach that has been giving you 10 games a year, naturally, you suspect that the coach that you're getting is going to at least give you 10, maybe give you more, which is what makes this particular win, and I call it a win in quotes because I said the same thing about Tennessee and Appalachian State, and I'm going to say it now for Georgia and Nichols. It's a win that feels like a loss. It's a win that feels like a loss. You won 26-24 against a school who I had not ever heard of previous to them being on your schedule, and that school is in the state where I grew up. So that's one. Two, or in this neighboring the state that I grew up. It's a Louisiana school. I grew up in Texas, but a lot of across the University of Incarnate Word, who is in the same conference with Nichols. They share a lot in common there. That you're playing that same school, and then on top of that school's mascot looks like M. Bison from Street Fighter. He looks like a video game character. I don't even know what the deal is with that General Toulouse. He looks like a video game character. It's bizarre. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And so you nearly lost to that school. That school had no business being with you, and that's a game that went down to the wire. That's a nail biter. That's a heart attack inducing game, the kind of which you never want to see. Vols fans would be fine if they never saw a game that looked like that ever again. And now Georgia fans could be added to the list. Does this say anything about Georgia? Does it say what Georgia can and can't do? I really don't think so. And part of it is because of the performance against North Carolina that I think, I mean, it was against the better team. This was, I don't want to say a trap game or anything like that, but it was definitely a fall-off game. This is the kind of games that happen when you play a really strong opponent and then you play a really particularly weak opponent, or at least an opponent much weaker than the one that you saw. You kind of mail it in and think, hey, you know what? We can really walk through this school. No, you can't. You cannot do that against these schools anymore. These smaller schools are getting talent. They're getting 4 stars. They're getting 5 stars just like you. Maybe not as many as you, and maybe not in all the good positions that you get, but they are getting these guys. And you know what? Once these schools get a couple of these guys, they figure out how to put them in positions to give them a chance to pull off an upset. Because that's what these schools live for. That's what Nichols lives for. That's what Appalachian State lives for. That upset. They wanted the upset against Tennessee. About 10 years ago, they got that upset against Michigan. This is a school that wants to get that upset. That's what they live for. And you cannot look down on opponents like that, or you will be beaten, which is what makes this promising, at least, if you're a Tennessee fan, is that you know that the Vols know this already. By opening your season against Appalachian State and surviving that game, I think it's better than having beaten a couple of good teams first and then running into Appalachian State, because then that's that school to run you. If you think you are just going to walk through some of these schools, you are wrong. And we're going to see it come up again and again. You look at what happened at Oklahoma State. They lost that game to Central Michigan. Sure. Did the referees screw the call up? They sure did on that Hail Mary. And that refereeing crew, I mean, they're only suspended for 2 games, but they ought to be suspended for the rest of the season. If you ask me, you have an opportunity to see the game on the field, and then you've got a replay crew in a studio, and you don't get the call right. That's unacceptable. You have a replay crew in a studio, and they didn't get the call right. Not okay. That kind of thing is simply not okay. And I don't understand how you could miss that call. But regardless, Oklahoma State, thought they were going to walk through Central Michigan? You were not. You're not going to walk through a school like that. Wasn't going to happen. And Central Michigan had a chance to keep themselves in the game. And sure, did the refs screw up? Yeah. But they ended up winning the game. They ended up winning the game. I'm looking at schools like Tennessee and Georgia, because I think you've got a couple more schools like that on your schedule. If you end up messing around and being in a close game, you give yourself the chance to lose a close game. Handle your business early. That's just don't make the knuckleheaded plays that have you in a close game in the first place. That's about as simple as I can possibly make it. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Nick Saban was caught on the sideline. There's video of Nick Saban on the sideline berating his offensive coordinator, Lane Kiffin, which to me, as much junk has come out of Lane Kiffin's face in his entire history as a coach, I don't really feel bad when people say bad things to Lane Kiffin. That's karma. So that's one. But people have been shocked by Nick Saban. They asked Nick Saban about, you got into an argument with Lane Kiffin after the game. And Nick Saban said, that's not an argument. That's an ass chewing. I was lighting into him. Yeah, I was. And it goes back to people not liking arrogance and people not liking these kinds of things in sports. Nick Saban chewed out Lane Kiffin, and he completely owned his actions. This is what I did. Hell yeah, I'd shoot him out. What about it? And we're mad. Like, what if he had said, you know what, it was just an argument, we just had a disagreement about, we would have been mad that he wasn't telling the truth. So what do you want? What would you like Nick Saban to say there? He chewed the guy out. Now, do you want Nick Saban to not have yelled at Lane Kiffin? Why? You understand that happens in a workplace sometimes, right? Like that sometimes, depending on the tension of the situation and the tension of the workplace. And we know that coach is a high-stress job. We know this. Head coach disagrees with you, he's going to chew you out. That doesn't make him a bad guy. How do you know he doesn't have a pretty good relationship with Lane Kiffin? How do you know? There are jobs where being yelled at is kind of part of the job. It is. I used to work in a pizza restaurant. A pizza restaurant. Let me repeat myself. I used to work in a pizza restaurant. I got yelled at by my managers in a pizza restaurant. This is not life and death. It's pizza. Okay, this isn't a college football season where you lose one game and the season is over. It's pizza. If I didn't do this right, we would have messed up one single pizza. There's just some jobs where that happens. Lane Kiffin's grown. He'll be all right. I mean, it's a high-stress job. Like, I mean, let's not act like when Lane Kiffin was a head coach, he never yelled at anybody in his whole life. And we're defending Lane Kiffin now? Since when? Lane Kiffin is going to be a head coach again somewhere because he's too talented not to. But Lane Kiffin, like, you hear all the stories about Lane Kiffin, he's an aggravating dude. And if you see all the stuff he says on Twitter, especially the stuff about Tennessee, he's an adjutant. He's an irritant. That's part of his existence. He likes it that way. But when you're an agitating person, people yell at you. Doesn't mean you deserve for people to yell at you, but people yell at you. It's just a fact. It's just the nature of how that goes. If you choose to be an irritating person, people yell at you. If you choose to be Lane Kiffin, people yell at you. Not everybody who ever gets yelled at is irritating, but everybody who's irritating can be yelled at. That's just a fact. That's just how the math of that works out. Lane Kiffin put himself in a situation where he yaks too much. And I remember when Wes Welker had the whole, was making fun of Rex Ryan and the whole foot thing, and then basically got suspended for half a game by Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick does not play around with that. Nick Saban is college Bill Belichick. He doesn't play around with stuff. And that's basically all Lane Kiffin is, the guy who goofs around. And Nick Saban isn't going to have it. And if you want to goof around, you want to troll Tennessee fans on Twitter, that's fine. But then when I ask you to run my offense properly, you run it, or I yell at you. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Alex Jones following this show. And always stick around and check out football on Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, home of the NFL in Chattanooga.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing the new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy near the Thrasher Light. There's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest